I was in a local supermarket the other day and I heard a song and I recognized the voice.
Right?
It was your song playing at the store.
Yeah, maybe you told me that. It's so interesting.
What was that song? You said something that you composed it for.
I thought it was Generation to Generation, if that was the song. In 1995, this is already going into when I started my spiritual journey already. Because in like 94, I wrote a song, or 93, I wrote a song, Needle and Thread. And I was very sick with bronchitis. I was sharing a studio apartment with a good friend of mine at that time. And it was a song about how our souls are all connected. And it was the beginning of my own spiritual journey that I started becoming very interested in my relationship with God and becoming closer to God and trying to be able to derive um, more of a sense of closeness. And I wrote that song, and that began really my spiritual journey. But I started looking into going to classes to learn a little bit more. Um, and then there was a trip that came up that was going to Poland and Israel to visit the concentration camps and then go to Israel. And so I decided that I was going to take that trip. And my lease was up in my apartment. I sold everything I had and went on a one-way ticket to Israel on this trip, an open-ended ticket. And when I was there, after the trip was over, I decided to stay even longer. And I met Rabbi Noach Weinberg from Aisha Torah, Olav Shalom, and he became a big influence on me. In fact, we used to learn together privately in his office twice a week. It was a big, everyone was amazed at that because he was, someone you could have private time with was a big thing. And while I was learning with him, they had this fundraising event coming up. And I knew that he was from the Lower East Side also, and I wrote this song, Generation, Generation, that was about a kid growing up from the Lower East Side with traditions and about sharing those traditions and trying to perpetuate Judaism to the next generation. And I wrote this song, and I took my keyboard and I knocked on his door one day in his office, and I put it up against his desk and gave him the words. And I said, "You got to hear this song." I sat down, I played it for him, and he's on the spot. He said, "I want you to record that, and we're going to put it on the tape, and we're going to give it out at this big gala dinner event, and I want you to perform it at the event." So this was it was a major event in fundraising in Israel, and a lot of the top, they had donors from you know, um, some of the big people in Israel in politics and in other fields and everything, and so we made that tape, and then that tape was distributed, but it was never officially released. I didn't release it. I don't even know what happened to it. But through the years, it's very interesting. I was watching, in fact, my sister called me from Florida a couple of years ago. She said she was watching watching something, and when the credits were rolling, all of a sudden a video of me came on playing Generation to Generation. That I did in a shul maybe 20 years for some shul 20 years ago, and they were trying to have a little clip for their promo.
Wow.
And so again, once in a while, the song pops up. I actually have in mind to re-record it and try to release it at some point. I just feel it needs a bridge. It needs something. I wasn't really. My songwriting at that point was not as developed as I would have liked, as it is now. And I would try to fix it up a little bit.